The Galaxy Council chamber floated in silent orbit around a dying blue star. The light of that star passed through the vast crystal walls and broke into soft colors that moved slowly across the floor. The chamber was older than most civilizations present. It had seen empires rise, speak proudly, and then disappear without leaving a name behind. Representatives from more than 100 species sat in curved rows that faced the center platform. Some had metal bodies, some were made of living light, and others still looked almost organic, with skin, eyes, and slow breathing. Translation fields hummed gently, turning every sound into shared meaning. The meeting was supposed to be routine. Trade routes, border disputes, resource rights. Small matters of a large galaxy. Humanity had only been part of the council for a short time. The human delegation sat near the outer ring, not close to the center. Their seats were plain. Their clothing was simple compared to the glowing robes and floating symbols worn by others. Ambassador Hyun Coc sat straight, hands folded, eyes calm but alert. Beside him sat Mira, a cultural advisor, and Jin, a quiet observer from Earth's Defense Council. They spoke little. Humans often did. Most of the council believed humans were not important yet. They were considered young, emotional, and limited. Useful traders. Decent engineers. Nothing more. The speaker of the council, a tall being shaped like layered stone, raised one heavy arm. The room quieted. "Let us proceed," the speaker said, before the next topic could be announced. The light in the chamber changed. The colors froze. The hum of the translation. Field stopped. Then the star outside dimmed, as if something unseen had passed between it and the chamber. Several council members reacted at once. Defensive systems activated. Energy shields flared and then failed without resistance. Panic spread in small movements and sharp sounds. A presence entered the chamber. It did not arrive through any visible door or gate. It was simply there. The ancient being did not have a fixed shape. It appeared tall, but that was an impression, not a measurement. Its surface looked like shifting space, deep and endless, filled with slow-moving lights that resembled distant galaxies. Looking at it too long caused discomfort, as if the mind could not decide where the being ended and the universe began. Silence returned. Heavy and absolute, even the speaker could not move. The ancient being spoke without sound. Its words appeared directly inside every mind. Clear and impossible to misunderstand. "I have come because you are about to repeat a mistake," it said. Fear spread openly now. Some council members tried to flee. Their bodies did not respond. "I am older than your oldest records," the being continued. "I have watched stars form and burn out. I have watched civilizations reach the height of pride and fall into dust. I do not interfere often, but this moment matters." The speaker struggled and managed to speak. "You have no authority here." The ancient being did not react. "You are planning conflict," it said. "You believe it will be small, controlled, safe." Images appeared in the air. Not projections, but shared memories. Worlds in flames. Cities broken open. Space filled with wreckage and frozen bodies. "These are not visions of the future," the being said. "They are memories of the past." The images shifted. Species unfamiliar to anyone present screamed as their planets died. Fleets vanished. Names were erased. "I watched them provoke a young species," the being said. "They believed age meant wisdom. They believed strength was measured only by size and numbers." The images changed again. This time the beings dying were different. Larger, more advanced. Their weapons were elegant and terrible, yet they failed. The young species survived. The image ended. The chamber lights returned slowly. Systems restarted, but no one moved. The ancient being turned its attention toward the outer ring, toward the humans, humanity. It said, a wave of attention hit the human delegation like physical force. Mira's breath caught. Jin clenched his jaw. Hyun Seok did not move, but his heart rate spiked. "They are the reason I am here," the being said. A ripple of disbelief spread through the council. Humans are insignificant. One delegate said sharply, "They are new, weak." The ancient being shifted, and the stars within it moved faster. "They are young," it agreed. "They are not weak." It raised what might have been an arm. "Do not provoke humanity," it said, "or you will face war." The words settled into every mind like cold stone. Laughter broke the silence. A sharp, clicking sound from a reptilian delegate. "Is this a joke?" the delegate said. "They can barely defend their borders." The ancient being's presence. Deepened borders mean nothing to them when survival is threatened, it said. More images. Appeared human history, primitive cities fighting over land. Then larger wars, machines, fire, entire continents scarred. The images did not hide the horror. Death camps, burned cities, starving civilians. Council members recoiled. They destroyed themselves. Someone said, "Yes," the ancient being replied, "and they endure." The images continued. Plagues, asteroids, climate collapse. Each time, humans fell close to extinction. Each time they adapted, changed, learned. They evolved through suffering, the being said. Pain does not break them. It shapes them. The images stopped. HFY finally stood. "We did not ask for this," he said quietly. Ancient being acknowledged him with a subtle shift. "They never do it," said the speaker, regained enough control to speak again. "What is it that you want?" "I want you to listen," the being replied, "because you will not get another warning." It turned once more to the council as a whole. "You see restraint and think it is weakness," it said. "You see diplomacy and think it is fear." The human delegation remained silent. "When humans fight among themselves, they limit their destruction," the being continued. "When they face an outside threat, they unite completely." A final image appeared, a human symbol, simple, blue and white. Earth. "Every weapon they hide is designed not for conquest," the being said, "but for the day they believe extinction is coming." The image faded. The ancient being began to disappear, its edges dissolving into light. "I have seen what happens when this warning is ignored," it said. "I will not stay to watch it again." The chamber returned fully to normal. The star outside shone once more. For several seconds, no one spoke, then voices erupted. Arguments, denials, fear. Hyun-Sok sat back down slowly. Mira's hands were shaking. Jin stared at the empty space where the being had been. "They won't listen," Mira whispered. Hyun-Seo closed his eyes briefly. "No," he said. "They never do." Around them, the Galaxy Council argued about politics, power, and pride, and far away, on a small blue world, humanity continued to live quietly, unaware that an ancient warning had just been spoken in their name, the Galaxy. Council session ended in confusion and loud disagreement. Delegates left their seats in groups, speaking fast and sharp through the translation fields. Some showed fear. Others showed anger. Many showed pride. The warning still echoed in their minds. Most tried to push it away. Humanity was discussed only briefly. Most council members agreed on one thing. The ancient being was powerful, but ancient powers often misunderstood the present. The galaxy had changed. Technology had advanced. Fleets were larger. Weapons were stronger. No single young species could threaten the balance. Humans were filed under the same category as before, unremarkable on the journey back to human space. Ambassador Hyun-Suk stood alone in the observation room of the diplomatic vessel. Stars drifted past the wide glass window. He had seen them many times before, yet tonight they felt heavier, as if they were watching him. Behind him, Mira entered quietly. "They're already arguing about borders," she said. "Not about the warning." Hyun-Seok nodded. "They heard it. They just don't believe it applies to them." Mira crossed her arms. "Do you think the ancient being was telling the truth?" Han-Seok did not answer right away. "I think it was telling a truth we already know," he said. One we don't like to talk about. Mira looked at him. That we're dangerous? That we become dangerous when pushed, he replied. The ship jumped to faster-than-light travel. Space folded, and the stars vanished far away. In systems that humans rarely visited, analysts reviewed data about Earth and its colonies. Human ships were not the largest. Their weapons were not the most powerful on paper. Their shields were average. Their engines were reliable, but not exceptional. Yet the reports kept, noting strange patterns. Humans overbuilt everything their ships could take. Damage far beyond safety limits and still function. Their systems had backups for backups. Their command structures were flexible, allowing officers to act without waiting for orders. Most species, designed for efficiency, humans designed for survival. On a frontier station near a contested trade route, Commander Tay Rin watched cargo ships move slowly through docking lanes. The station was old and patched in many places. It had been attacked before. Pirates, smugglers, and once a small alien patrol that claimed navigation rights. Tayrin had been there for all of it. She stood with her hands behind her back. Uniform neat, expression calm. A junior officer approached. "Commander," he said, "we received another protest from the Coalition fleet. They say we're too close to their zone."
Ow.
Tayrin sighed softly. "Send the standard reply?" "We are within treaty limits, yes, Commander." The officer hesitated. "They're bringing in more ships." Tayrin looked back at the view. "So are we." She did not say it with threat. Just fact. Human frontier forces were trained to hold ground without escalation. Every captain knew the rule. Do not fire first. Do not provoke. Give diplomacy time, but they also knew the other rule. If civilians are threatened, hesitation ends. On Earth, the Council of Nations met in a quiet chamber beneath layers of rock and shielding. Screens displayed summaries from the Galaxy Council meeting. The ancient being's appearance was recorded only as data gaps and sensor failures. General De Sol leaned forward, fingers interlocked. "They laughed," he said. Not openly, but they dismissed it. Around the table, leaders from different regions listened. "They always do," said Ji-Hyun, a civilian security advisor. "We've seen this pattern since first contact," another official spoke. "So what do we do?" De Sol looked around the table. "We prepare quietly." Like always, no one argued. Preparation was something humanity understood. In schools, children learned about past collapses, wars, near-extinction events. They were not taught with pride, but with honesty. Mistakes were remembered so they would not be repeated. Human culture carried old fear deep inside it, the fear of losing everything in alien space. Rumors spread. Humans were stubborn. Humans refused to retreat. Humans rebuilt too fast after losses. Some species found this admirable. Others found it troubling. A research group from a distant system studied human psychology. Their conclusion was simple and alarming. Humans did not see war the same way. To most species, war was failure. To humans, war was the worst option. But once chosen, it was treated as total reality. On a mining colony near the edge of human-controlled space, families lived quiet lives. Children played under artificial skies. Workers returned home tired, but safe. They trusted the border patrols. They trusted the treaties. They trusted that no one would be foolish. Enough to test humanity again, Commander. Tayrin received a private message late in her shift. It was from an old friend in intelligence. "Coalition fleets are running simulations," the message said. "Against us." Tayrin stared at the screen. "War games." She typed back. "Occupation scenarios," came the reply. Tayrin closed her eyes for a moment. Across human space, similar messages were received. Quiet alerts. Increased readiness. Nothing public. Nothing dramatic. Humans did not shout warnings. They listened. They waited, Ambassador. Hyun Seok returned to Earth and briefed the Planetary Council. He described the ancient being in careful words. He repeated the warning exactly. Some leaders looked uneasy, others looked tired. "We can't force the galaxy to believe us," Yuan said. "But we can make sure we're not unready." Outside the chamber, Earth continued its normal rhythm. Traffic, markets, music, life, humanity. Had learned long ago not to panic unless panic was necessary in the depths of space. The ancient being watched. It did not intervene. It observed patterns forming. Like ripples before a storm, species that believed themselves strong began to push boundaries. Small probes crossed lines. Patrols lingered too long. Demands were made louder. Humans responded with messages .com, clear, firm, do not proceed. Most ignored them to the galaxy. Humanity still looked small to the ancient being. They looked familiar. They looked like every species that survived long enough to learn. One final lesson: that peace is fragile, and restraint is not weakness. As fleets gathered far from human worlds, the first true test drew closer. Humanity remained silent, but silence, when chosen, was never empty. The first incident did not look like war. It began as a mistake, Human cargo ship traveling along a shared trade corridor received an automated warning from a coalition patrol. The message claimed the ship had crossed into restricted space. The human captain checked the navigation data twice. The ship was exactly where it was allowed to be. The captain replied calmly and provided proof. The coalition patrol did not respond. Instead, it moved closer. On the bridge of the cargo ship, alarms sounded softly. The crew tensed, but no one panicked. They had trained for situations like this. The captain ordered shields to stand by and weapons to remain offline. "We're not here to fight," she said. "Record everything." Scanning beam passed over the hull, stronger than required by inspection rules. Power levels spiked, then a warning. Shot hit empty space less than a kilometer from the ship. The crew froze. That shot was illegal. Cargo ship turned back immediately and sent a distress report to the nearest human patrol. Within hours, the story spread across frontier stations. Coalition patrols were becoming aggressive. They were stopping human ships more often. Inspections took longer. Cargo was delayed. Some shipments never arrived. The galaxy. Council issued no formal complaint. They called it a misunderstanding. Commander Tayrin received the first confirmed report of a seized transport. 3 days later, the ship had been carrying medical supplies to a small colony. Its crew had been detained for questioning. She read the report slowly. No injuries, no deaths. But the message was clear. Her communications officer watched her carefully. "Orders?" he asked. "Send a protest," Tayrin said. "Request immediate release. And if they refuse?" Tayrin paused. "Then we escalate through command channels. Not guns." She turned back to the window. Behind calm orders, tension grew. On Earth, analysts tracked every movement. Patterns formed. Coalition fleets were testing response times, measuring patience. General De Sol stood in the command center, hands resting on the edge of a large table filled with moving symbols. "They're pushing," he said. "Carefully, I think we'll back down," said Hannah Juan, a strategic analyst. She spoke softly, but with certainty. "They think restraint means fear." De Sol nodded. "How long until civilians are at risk?" "Soon," Hannah replied. "They won't stop at ships." In the Galaxy Council, debates continued. Some delegates argued for restraint. Others demanded action. "The humans are expanding," one representative said. "They are testing us," another replied. "They are responding to your patrols." The louder voices won. A limited operation was approved, officially. It was called a security enforcement action. Unofficially, it was meant to remind humanity of its place. The target was a small human colony on the edge of a resource-rich system. The colony had no major defenses. It mined rare elements and exported them. Quietly, families lived there. Children lived there. The coalition fleet arrived without warning, from orbit. Their ships blocked all outgoing signals. Communication satellites went dark. Transport vessels attempting to leave were turned back. On the surface, people looked up and saw unfamiliar shapes crossing the sky. The colony governor sent emergency messages that never arrived. The coalition commander ordered ground forces to deploy. The stated goal was control. The real goal was fear. Human patrols detected the fleet within minutes. Commander Tay Rin received the alert and felt her chest tighten. Confirmed civilian presence, she said. Confirmed, her officer replied. Hi. Tay Rin opened a secure channel to Earth Command. This is not a misunderstanding, she said. They've crossed the line. General De Sol listened in silence. Do not engage, he ordered at last. Shadow them. Record everything. Tay Rin's jaw tightened, but she obeyed. On the colony, coalition troops moved through streets with weapons raised. They claimed they were there to restore order. People were ordered indoors. Resistance was minimal until a mining crew refused to abandon their site. Shots were fired. The sound echoed across the colony. 3 humans died. Their names were recorded. The news reached Earth hours later. The room where the Council of Nations met was silent. No one shouted, no one argued. Hannah Juwan stood and displayed the footage. Clear, verified, unedited. This was intentional, she said. Rules of engagement were violated. General De Sol closed his eyes briefly. Send one message, he said. Demand immediate withdrawal and release of all detainees. And if they refuse? Someone asked. De Sol opened his eyes. Then we stop asking. The message was sent. It was polite. It was firm. It warned of consequences. The coalition commander read it and dismissed it. He believed the operation was already a success. On the colony, tension rose. Coalition troops grew nervous. Small acts of resistance began. Graffiti, sabotage, power failures. A nervous soldier fired at a moving shadow. The shot hit a civilian shelter. The shelter collapsed. This time, the number of dead was higher. The ancient being felt the change. Across time and space, it sensed a familiar shift. A line crossed. A choice made. It turned its attention toward the Galaxy Council chamber. Now empty and quiet, they did not listen, it said to no one. On Earth. Alarms sounded in places that had not heard them in decades. Deep facilities. Opened, systems long kept dormant. Powered on. Orders moved through secure channels. Not for attack, for readiness. General De Sol addressed the planetary leadership. We will make one final demand, he said. After that, responsibility is theirs. The final message was sent. It contained proof. Names of the dead. Time. Stamps. Coordinates it. Asked for withdrawal. The response came ours. Later negative, the coalition declared. The colony, under temporary control, they claimed. The deaths were accidents. On the frontier, Commander Tay Rin watched the occupied world from a distance. Her fleet was outnumbered. Her weapons were locked by order. She clenched her fists. Hold, she told her crew. Just hold. Human space went very quiet. Civilians were informed in careful words. Protests did not erupt. Panic did not spread. Instead, something older surfaced. A shared memory of loss, a shared refusal, in homes across Earth and its colonies. People watched the news and felt the same cold realization. They were being tested, far above the occupied colony. A coalition officer looked at sensor data and frowned. Human. Fleets were moving, not toward the colony. Around. It positioning, the officer reported it. The commander waved it away. They won't act, he said. They never do. In the darkness between stars, The ancient being watched humanity draw a breath it had taken many times before in its history, a breath taken just before everything changed. The colony burned slowly. It was not destroyed all at once. That would have been too obvious, too hard to defend. Instead, power grids failed in sections. Water systems shut down. Food storage facilities were seized. And rationed by armed patrols, people waited. They believed help would come before things grew worse. Coalition commanders called it stabilization. Humans on the ground called it. Occupation Commander Tay-Rin watched the surface feeds from her ship. Fires glowed like red wounds across the dark side of the planet. Her crew stood silently behind her, eyes fixed on the screens. Civilian casualties? She asked. Confirmed, her officer replied. Numbers rising. Tay-Rin's hands tightened behind her back. Any response to the final message? No, Commander. What? She exhaled slowly through her nose, then maintained position. Her voice did not shake on Earth. The final refusal reached the Council of Nations at the same moment as updated casualty lists. Names scrolled across the screen. Ages followed. Too many were young. Hannah Giwan stood beside the display. She did not speak at first. No one asked her to. General Day's soul broke the silence. Confirm authenticity, confirmed Hannah said. Multiple sources. No doubt. Daysol nodded once. He turned to the room. This is no longer an incident. It is a pattern. No one argued. Outside the chamber, the world remained calm. People went to work. Children went to school. Humanity had learned to separate fear from function, but something had shifted. Deep. Systems began to unlock. Keys that required multiple human authorities were turned without debate. Long dormant fleets powered on in silent docks hidden inside asteroids, moons, and hollowed planets. These fleets were never shown in parades. They existed only for one reason: extinction. Prevention in the Galaxy Council, emergency sessions were called. Some delegates demanded an immediate halt to coalition actions. Others argued it was too late to change course without losing face. One voice rose above the rest. We cannot look weak, the representative said. Humans respect strength. The chamber fell quiet. A familiar presence filled the space. The ancient being returned. It did not stop systems this time. It did not silence anyone. It simply appeared, and its presence pressed down on every mind. I warned you, it said, fear. Spread openly now. You said nothing about consequences, the speaker said. The ancient being's attention focused on the speaker. I did, it replied. You chose not to understand. Images filled the chamber, the occupied colony. Burning shelters, bodies, covered with thin sheets. These lives are the cost of your pride, the being said. Some delegates turned away, others stared in denial. Humanity has not yet responded, the speaker said. There is still time. Yes, the ancient being agreed. There is. It turned toward the empty seat assigned to humanity. They are deciding how much mercy remains, said the being, faded without another word. On the colony, resistance grew desperate. People tried to break blockades. Some were shot. Others were detained. A group of children hid in an underground maintenance tunnel when fighting broke out near their homes. The tunnel collapsed during a nearby explosion. Rescue teams tried to reach them. Coalition patrols blocked the way, citing security risks. By the time permission was granted, the tunnel was silent. The report reached Earth less than an hour later. General Day, Sol read it once. Then again he stood. Begin evacuation protocols for all frontier colonies, he said. Activate Guardian status. The room reacted instantly. Guardian status. It's never been used. It meant humanity accepted the possibility of total war. Messages spread through human space. Calm instructions. Clear routes. No panic. Commander Tay-Rin received new orders. Her fleet's weapons unlocked. She closed her eyes briefly. About time. Someone whispered. Tay-Rin opened her eyes. No celebrations, she said. This is not a victory. Human fleets moved. Not in a rush, not in anger. They moved with purpose. Around the occupied colony, coalition sensors lit up. Human ships appeared in numbers that had not been previously. Recorded heavy ships. Carriers silent. Platforms that did not broadcast signatures. Coalition. Commanders demanded explanations. They received none. On Earth, General Desol addressed humanity. His message was short. Our restraint has ended, he said. We will protect our people. This conflict was not our choice. No threats. No insults. Just fact. The first human strike did not target ships. It targeted. Control. Coalition communication arrays went dark. Across multiple systems within seconds. Navigation beacons failed. Command links fractured. Coalition fleets found themselves isolated, confused. Then human ships advanced. Commander Tay-Rin gave the order. Disable orbital weapons, she said. Human weapons fired with precision. Coalition platforms were crippled without exploding. Boarding pods followed. On the ground, coalition troops lost orbital support. Their confidence collapsed. The coalition commander attempted to surrender. His signal never reached his superiors. In the Galaxy Council chamber, alarms sounded as reports flooded in coalition. Forces were falling back. Some were surrounded. Some vanished from sensors entirely. They are not attacking civilian worlds, a delegate said, stunned. They're cutting supply lines. The speaker looked. Hollow. They're fighting like this is. Familiar, another whispered the ancient being. Watched from beyond time. Humanity was no longer holding its breath, it was exhaling. On the occupied colony, human dropships descended for the first time. Medical teams followed soldiers. Fires were extinguished. Survivors were evacuated. Commander Tay-Rin stood on the surface at last. She looked at the damage, at the bodies. She closed her eyes. This is why we warned them, she said quietly. Above the planet, human fleets formed a silent wall. The war had begun, not with rage, but with resolve. The galaxy learned very quickly that humanity did not fight like others. The first battles did not look dramatic. There were no massive explosions broadcast across public channels. There were no grand speeches or threats. Human fleets moved quietly, striking systems that mattered most and leaving others. Untouched coalition commanders struggled to understand what was happening. Their ships were still intact. Their crews were still alive, yet their ability to fight was disappearing. Supply convoys vanished from sensors and reappeared days later, drifting without power. Fuel depots went dark. Repair yards lost gravity control and had to be evacuated. Navigation networks collapsed as if someone had removed the center of a web. Human ships did not chase fleeing enemies. They surrounded them, then waited. Commander Tay-Rin led one of the primary task groups. Her fleet moved through hostile systems without broadcasting identity codes. Every ship followed strict silence unless communication was required. Status, she said. All targets disabled, her tactical officer replied. Minimal casualties. Tay-Rin nodded. Maintain perimeter. No pursuit. Her crew followed orders without question. They had trained for this kind of war. Not one of glory, one of endurance across multiple systems. Coalition forces attempted counterattacks. They launched volleys of high-energy weapons at human formations. Human ships absorbed the hit's armor. Cracked shields failed, but the ships kept moving. Where other species designed ships to avoid damage, humans designed them to keep fighting while damaged. Human engineers had learned long ago that perfection failed under pressure. Redundancy survived. In one engagement near a gas giant, a coalition cruiser rammed a human destroyer in desperation. Both ships were crippled. Coalition sensors showed the human ship dead. Minutes later, it fired. The coalition cruiser surrendered immediately. Footage of the battle spread through coalition space. Confidence began to break. On Earth, General Desol reviewed reports in silence. Casualty numbers were lower than expected, but not zero. Every name mattered. Hannah Juan stood beside him. "They're adapting," she said. "But not fast enough." Daysol nodded. "They never expect this kind of patience." Humanity did not rush victory. It denied defeat. Coalition worlds closest to the conflict began to panic. Governments issued emergency orders. Civilian traffic clogged jump routes. Refugees fled in overloaded transports. Human fleets allowed them to pass. This confused observers. "Why don't they stop them?" one council delegate asked. "Because they are not the enemy," another replied quietly. The Galaxy Council chamber filled again, this time with fear that could not be hidden. Reports confirmed that coalition military power was collapsing far faster than predicted. "They're dismantling us," a delegate said. "Without destroying us?" Speaker looked older than before. "What does humanity want?" No one answered. The ancient being appeared once more. "You still ask the wrong question." It said all eyes turned toward it. "They want you to stop." The being continued. "They want safety. They want assurance that this will never happen again." "How do we give that?" the speaker asked. The ancient being's form shifted slowly. "You listen. And you remember." On the front lines, coalition resistance weakened. Entire fleets powered down rather than be disabled piece by piece. Officers realized that every aggressive move was predicted before it was made. Human strategy models adjusted in real time. Fed by artificial intelligence trained on centuries of human conflict, humans had fought each other longer than they had fought aliens. They had learned every mistake the hard way. Commander Tayrin boarded a captured coalition carrier. The corridors were quiet. Crew members sat where they had been ordered to wait. No one resisted. A coalition officer approached slowly and lowered his weapon. "We surrender," he said. "Please." Tayrin nodded. "Medical teams are coming. Follow instructions." She did not insult him. She did not threaten him. That frightened him more. Across human space, citizens watched the war unfold through controlled information releases. They were told the truth, but not shown every detail. Human leaders understood morale. They also understood restraint in one distant system. A coalition world attempted a desperate strike. Long-range weapons targeted a human civilian. Station, the attack failed. Human defense platforms intercepted the weapons before they reached the station. Then, the platforms fired back. The coalition world lost all orbital defense capability in under 3 minutes. No cities were hit. But the message was clear. Do not try again, General. Daysol authorized the next phase, containment. He said, human fleets formed massive arcs around coalition territory, sealing borders without invading core worlds. Trade routes were cut. Military movement was impossible. The coalition economy began to collapse. Factories shut down. Energy shortages spread. The war was no longer fought with weapons. It was fought with control in the Galaxy Council. Several species withdrew their support from the coalition. Alliances fractured. We misjudged them, a delegate admitted. They are not conquerors. They are wardens, another replied. The ancient being listened. This is the phase most civilizations fail, it said. Power tempts cruelty. It turned its gaze toward human space. Human fleets did not advance further. They held. Commander Tayrin received a message from Earth. Maintain position, it said. No expansion. She allowed herself a slow breath. On the occupied colony, reconstruction began, even as the war continued elsewhere. Human engineers rebuilt power grids. Medical ships stayed in orbit. Survivors were given support. The dead were honored quietly. No banners, no speeches, just names. Coalition leadership finally requested negotiations. The message was sent through neutral channels. General Daysol read it and handed it to Hannah Juan. They're ready, she said. Yes, Daysol replied. Because they understand now. In the void beyond the galaxy's mapped edges, the ancient being Watch the shape of the conflict settle. Humanity had unleashed its strength and then stopped. This, more than destruction, was what terrified the galaxy, because it showed choice. Humanity was not fighting to prove dominance. It was fighting to make a point. And the point had been made. The war slowed. Not because humanity was tired, because it had achieved what it set out to do. Coalition fleets no longer moved without permission. Their commanders waited for instructions that never came. Supply shortages became common. Morale collapsed. Human fleets remained in place. Silent and patient, they did not tighten the noose further. They let it be felt, on a neutral world chosen for talks. Representatives from the coalition arrived under human escort. Their ships were searched but not boarded. Their crews were treated with care. This unsettled them more than hostility would have. The negotiation hall was simple. No symbols of power, no displays of wealth. Just a long table, chairs, and clear light. Ambassador Seok entered quietly and took his seat. He was not wearing military colors, only a plain diplomatic suit. Across from him sat leaders who once spoke of humanity as a minor concern. Now they avoided his eyes. "We are here to end this," Seok said. His voice was calm. "But first, you need to understand why it happened." One delegate spoke, carefully. "You could have destroyed us." Seok nodded. "Yes. Why didn't you?" "Because destruction was never the goal," he replied. The delegates exchanged uneasy looks, while talks began. The ancient being appeared once more, seen by the negotiators, but present beyond time. It watched, it remembered other species. On Earth, Hanaguan prepared a historical archive for release to the Galaxy Council. It contained no secrets, only context, human history. Not edited, not softened, wars that scarred continents, weapons that nearly erased life, mistakes. Paid for with millions of lives, the archive was. Sent council members viewed it in silence. This species nearly destroyed. Itself, one whispered, "Yes," another replied, and learned from it. In the negotiation hall, Seok continued. "You attack civilians," he said. "That is the line we do not forgive." A coalition leader lowered his head. "We believed fear would force compliance." Seok's expression did not change. "Fear does not make humans obey. It makes us endure." Human fleets remained active. But inactive, this was deliberate. Human leaders understood something. Others did not. Ending a war was as dangerous as starting one. Commander Taerin received orders to hold position indefinitely. Her fleet had suffered losses, but her crews were steady. She walked through her ship, speaking with crew members, checking on damage, listening. They trusted the plan. They trusted restraint. On the occupied colony, now freed, memorials were raised. Simple stones. Names carved deep, families gathered. There was grief, but also relief. The coalition. Delegates asked a question that had followed them since the first warning. "Why were you ready?" one asked. "No other young species prepares like this." Seok paused before answering. "Because we know how close extinction feels," he said. The ancient being drifted closer. Its attention focused. The Galaxy Council convened once more. This time, the tone was different. There was no shouting. Reports confirmed the scale of humanity's restraint. "They stopped," the speaker said quietly. "They could have ended entire civilizations." "Yes," the ancient being said, now visible to all. "That is why they are dangerous." Some flinched, others listened. "They do not crave dominance," the being continued. "They fear loss." It showed more images. Human shelters during disasters, shared food. Hands pulling strangers from rubble. They protect fiercely because they remember being helpless, the being said. On Earth, General Daysol authorized de-escalation steps. Certain fleets powered down weapons. Supply routes were restored under supervision. The message was, Clear dot compliance would bring recovery. Coalition worlds began to stabilize. Factories restarted. Food shipments resumed. Hope returned. But it was cautious in the negotiation hall. The final terms were presented: withdrawal from all human space, permanent. Civilian protection accords. Joint monitoring. Zones. Acknowledgement of fault. Coalition delegates hesitated only once, then agreed. Heian Seok stood. "This ends the war," he said. "Do not mistake mercy for forgetfulness." Did not. The ancient being felt a familiar closing of a cycle. Humanity had done what few ever managed. It had stopped. At the edge of absolute power, Commander? Tae-Rin received confirmation that the blockade would lift in stages. She allowed herself to sit for the first time in days. Her second-in-command looked at her. "Do you think they understand now?" Tae-Rin considered the question. "They understand enough," she said, in the Galaxy Council chamber. A final record was added to the archives. Humanity, classified as a tier prime. Civilization. The ancient being addressed them one last time. "You were warned," it said softly. "Now you have learned." It faded across human space. Ships stood down. Soldiers returned. Home. Civilians rebuilt. The galaxy was quieter. But it was not the same, because now everyone knew the truth. Humanity did not seek war, but when forced to fight for survival, it remembered every lesson it had ever learned.